Welcome to Slice, Property Made Possible. We're a platform on a mission to reduce barriers to home ownership. This podcast is a safe space for our community to learn together and build the confidence required to start on their property journey. When you're ready to start, head along to slicetobuy.com and sign up for your free dashboard. Welcome back to another episode of Slice Your Property podcast. Today we're joined by Brent. Hello.
Hey Amy. How are
Thanks
you?
for making the drive up.
It's all right.
I'm doing well. I'm already warmed up from my previous conversation with Andre. So
A friend of mine.
yeah, a friend of yours, traveling companions.
Yeah.
So we like to start off these episodes by asking you a little bit about your first home buyer journey. I know you've obviously had a great deal of success in property, but casting your mind back to that journey, what is it that you remember, Brent?
It was a while ago now. I think I was 19 or just turning 20. And I'm 39 now, so it was a long time ago. To be fair, I was no property guru or mogul or anything really. I just wanted to buy a house because I found security in it.
Yeah, That's pretty similar to me actually, that sense of security and actually not necessarily seeing it as an investment at the time, but actually wanting the emotional and kind of financial security that comes with it.
Yeah, it was security, but also not wanting to. I remember talking to one of my uncles. He sort of got into a little bit of property stuff. He was like, Brent, you never want to rent a house because then you're someone's bitch. Don't be the bitch. I remember that.
You're like, noted, thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to be the bitch.
So now you own multiple properties.
yeah.
That's the end of the episode.
That end.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just cut there.
Yeah.
No, that's so good. But so you had that advice and took that obviously seriously.
Yeah, pretty much.
Remember it being difficult buying the first one, or?
Well, it's different times. So it was 10% deposit.
Yeah.
My house was 120 grand. It was
Yeah.
just a lot. I know people say I was getting $10 an hour at the time, but it's still harder now because the multiplier on a home.
Yeah. That gap between $10 and $120K versus $25 and 1.2 million.
Yeah. So it's not, I'm not going to say it is harder now. I know boomers, people my age, I'm 39, will say blah, blah, it was harder then. It wasn't. It was.
Yeah, mum.
It was still hard. But once I got the place, it was 10% interest, so it was still not easy. But I packed it with flatmates, and you had the thing packed, and just did it up over a few years.
That's the beauty of buying when you're that young as well, right? Is you can just be like, oh, these are my flatting years anyway.
Yeah, you just tolerate it.
Yeah, not even tolerate it. I feel like you're probably
had a
like
good
fun.
time.
Yeah,
just like. Yeah, when you're buying, when you're going down to get piss, you're all chucking the money. It's all good.
It's all good.
All good. So there wasn't heaps of strategy or heaps of rhyme or reason behind it. It was just security, and I'd sort of seen my uncle make a bit of money off property and thought it's the combo, it's security, and it's why throw away. I've always been really good with money. I've saved money since I was very young, and I just didn't want to throw money away to someone else as well. So it's just a combination, that security and that don't be the bitch thing. And I was like, sweet.
Cool. I think the thing that's interesting though as well as buying at that age, we ask often what advice you'd give to your younger self. And man alive, do I wish I tried to buy. I mean, I don't know how I could have got there, but I think I maybe could have in my early 20s. Like if I was 20 and then flatted for 10 years and you spend 10 grand a year on rent, that's 100K that you could have put towards an asset instead of towards landlord's pockets. So I was a bit of a bitch, Brent. and that's what I regret.
I left school earlier too. A lot of people, it depends. Arguably maybe I shouldn't have, but I left school at 15, so was working a long time. Like that'd been 5 years I'd already been working.
So leave school and then buy a house.
Leave school, number one, don't be the bitch. I don't know, back the other way. Yeah. So you could argue that's a good thing to do or a bad thing to do, but when people go into education, they obviously write off years and money as well, so it gives you an advantage. That's why I've got tradie mates and different things, and I've got a head leave school at 16, good mate of mine, builder, Tommy's 20, fully qualified builder, making good money while some people are still going to uni and racking up debt. So
yeah, my uncle left school early and he's like a business owner and does really, really well. So it can be, and what moved into trade first to get into that journey. So it can actually be a good decision for some people. It just depends on where your strengths are, perhaps.
And if you want to be a teacher, you want to be a doctor, obviously there's things you have to do that you can't leave school at 15 or 16 or whatever. So it just depends what you want to do in life. So that was a bit of an advantage. I didn't do it because of that at the time. I just realised later when I still seen people going to uni and doing different things, and they're all buying their first house at 30.
They're not earning during that age 15 to 25, period.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm not saying people just leave school.
Don't leave school.
But it was...
Stay in school, kids.
It just worked out. And it's an advantage in ways,
Yeah. So, yeah, and it's cool to hear more about your personal journey, to know what those advantages have been. Because now you're obviously doing really well with property. Can you tell us a bit about that journey, your journey into property, and kind of growing that as a bit of a wealth strategy?
Yeah, so it's sort of, it wasn't a major plan again. It's kind of like, the first house I had for 5 years, so I just tacked away, did things up. It went up a lot, and then I sold it, made good money, and then from there I was away. Once you make good money, as long as you're not silly. Yeah. And then I'd owned some other places. I'm trying to remember now. I've owned a lot of property, and I can't remember where I've gone. But I bounced around a bit and had different places. I tried to do a new build, and then it was in that 07, 08 crash, and I ended up breaking even, so I didn't make any money. So everything I've done hasn't always been profitable. Yeah. But when I got... I guess I'd bought houses, lived in them, and kind of tidied them up over the years, and they were my homes as well, and I'd always done well out of like that. And then I think it got to my early 30s, and I'd sold a place down the Mount, a townhouse, and then I bought a house, another house, did it up, sort of sold it, and then kind of got the idea after a while, like I could do this in quicker succession. And I had another mate who had just bought his first house at the time, and he'd that up and sell it, and then we're still mates now, and he'd be good for you to get on this. He's bought and done up like 70 properties, so it'd be really good to get on here. We're good mates still, and we just kind of got on this thing to start flipping houses, and me and him were both doing it at the same time, and it just snowballed from there. Went with it and just did 1, 2, 3. I was doing like 2, 3 a year, maybe 4, and it just snowballed, and we were just sort of both competing. We'd show up at the same houses sometimes. And
at barbecues.
Or even at the same houses. We'd always find cheap houses.
To buy the same
houses. And we were all similar, and it just went from there. And then I had a business at the time. I opened a Snap Fitness in Tauranga, so I had the business, so I had cash flow as well, and I'd be managing the gym, running the gym, and doing up and selling houses, and kind of working on both. And I like the contrast to get out of the office a little bit too. And then recently I haven't done as much, because when I sold the gym, I realised the bank wouldn't lend to me. Well, you know how they want cash flow, and they want... So just before I did that, I actually bought a few properties just to hold on to. Yeah, so then I just fell into that house flipping, to be fair, and then just learnt
on the go.
Learnt on the go, yeah.
And what kind of houses were you looking at? Because obviously you and your friend turning up at the same ones. Like, is there a bit of a criteria, or a bit of like the same kind of properties that you think are likely to be a good investment? Yeah.
For flipping, generally dogs, like meth house. I've bought 2 or 3 meth houses.
Generally dogs.
Dogs. Meth does well for house flipping. So,
really? Yeah. So is that because there's some, can you get rid of the toxins or the meth?
Yeah. So one of my mates, he does building inspections. And
I've never tried meth, so I don't know exactly what's involved.
That's pretty popular. You should maybe try it sometime. So one of my mates is a builder, and he also does building inspections and decons. And when he needed a hand a couple of times, he'd actually ask me to come do it with him. So I learned how to do it. And when I'd buy a house, as long as it wasn't at a cooking level, it's still not crazy high, because then you got to strip jib and do stuff. But I learnt the process of cleaning it. So then I could just borrow his gear and clean them and get them retested. And and I guess the more obstacles, if you can get yourself in a cash position, it just knocks out just competition, I guess. Like the more dogger houses,
the less people that
less
are there.
people that'll show up, and then you get your way more when you buy them.
Yeah.
More chance of getting it cheaper. I used to do, I'm not advising on this sort of stuff, but I'd offer straight. So a thing I like to do to get houses at a good price, I would get a limb, get whatever, get my tradie mates around, because I've got builder mates. I wouldn't generally do a building report, just walk through. And I've got a pretty good idea now after doing a lot.
Yeah.
I'd just go around there with the boys, kind of pretty much eye it up, read my own limb, read my title, do all my due diligence. And at a certain level, then I'd just balls in, like offer them cash, 24 hours on the offer, no DD, nothing,
Yeah, and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
And obviously that works though.
Does
I guess,
work,
I mean that confidence to be able to give a cash offer as well is something that even those that might not want to take on a real dog of a property can learn from. Like that there is, value in actually going, hey, yeah, we're ready to go. Here's the cash. Here's an offer. And you can even do that before auction or,
Yeah, like cash still talks. Like if you really want to get, I kind of see like the more conditions you put on an offer, the less the less you've got the strong arm, the more.
And the more you'll have to almost offer in the number.
Pick up the price.
Yeah, so either pick up the price and have conditions or lower the price.
Yeah.
And don't have conditions. So you need to get clear on what that due diligence process looks like. And obviously you've got it down, but for those that don't, we
want to be
support with
careful.
that at Slice. Yeah. You want to make sure you've got some education around that. What other kind of first home buyer tips would you have for people that are at the beginning of their journey? Obviously make sure that you are doing your due diligence if you're not capable of kind of doing that yourself.
Yeah,
but
first home buyer stuff.
Buy a mess house now.
Just getting your ducks in a row, I guess. Like I see first home buyers, like I'm an agent as well, so I'm still a practicing agent now, but I'm just actually winding out because I'm going to do something else. But a lot of first home buyers don't even have their finances sorted, nothing, So first thing is probably get your finance sorted, and then you're not wasting time and where you're looking.
Yeah.
That'd be the main thing, and then probably don't do anything too crazy on your first home, just secure it. Yeah, it's a hard one. If it was me, I would still. Yeah, it's advice. Depends if you're asking advice from what I would personally do.
Maybe just what you would do versus.
What I would do, even if I was a first home buyer, like a lot of first home buyers, I feel like they want homes that are too flash. Like my first home was run down. It was a dog, and like there's money in dogs. Like I still think first home buyers should do what boomers basically did, and like
the DIY.
Just get into it and buy an old house, buy it run down, and then you pay it off and it'll go up in value. Time will help that. It always does with property. And then you double down by doing it up, and and it just makes you respect getting a nicer home as you get older too, that you started in the not. But I feel like a lot of people buying first homes now want $1 million house.
Yeah, those expectations have changed.
Yeah, where I still believe, it's good to grind out from the bottom a little bit, and you double up. You get
make money on the capital gains and make money on
adding value.
Yeah, on the renovation.
Yeah, so if I was, and you get in there, like a lot of first home buyers, I see this as an agent more than I did when I wasn't one, but like they want this really nice house, and they might spend another 3, 4, 5 years saving for it. And in that time, if you're not careful, the property market's rising. You've just fallen back when you could have just got in there and got a $600,000 house.
Yeah.
So I think
don't wait until you have, $1 million if you have the ability to spend $600K today, or because then you can move with the market as well, as opposed to potentially not earn enough to meet that next kind of standard as the market moves away on you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And in terms of your content as well, like obviously you're creating content for buyers or for flippers. Like, what does that look like? How have you found that journey? Because there's some great stuff you've got. What's your handle as well?
Oh, Brent Henry, which is my name, with just NZ at the end of it because it was already taken.
Yeah.
So it's just my name with NZ on the end of it, so New Zealand. Yeah, so it's interesting. I get some pretty interesting messages, a lot of positive stuff, a little bit of hate, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll
try to get you a bit more hate from this one.
I guess you always get a bit of hate around anything real estate because, I guess a lot of people think it's like food. It's like a fundamental human right. So some people do not like the thought of anyone making money
off
no,
it.
so
And there is some truth to that. Like
Yeah.
the Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Needs,
housing is one of those, high up that hierarchy. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it is how our economy is set up in New Zealand. And it's pretty hard to begrudge, players of that economy.
Yeah.
If we kind of need to change the game rather than
Yeah.
than that. And I think supply is probably the real challenge there. But some of the properties that you're buying that are dogs as well, first home buyers might not want them
They
or
wouldn't.
might not be able to borrow for them because
They
they might
wouldn't.
not have the expertise.
No, they wouldn't have been able to. And I think people are a bit naive too. Like, it's like, if you think of a butcher or a baker, they're not making the food out of the benevolence of their heart. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's trying to make money. So,
Yeah.
But I just think with real estate, it's a hot topic. I own a couple of commercial buildings too, and
Yeah.
I'm probably going to more push towards that space as I get older because I feel like there's less emotion around it. You never hear anyone talk about, commercial. People consider commercial buildings and leases just business people stuff and they don't care.
Yeah.
I find with residential stuff, depending on who gets in the government, it gets in and out of the media, and it like has this sort of. So you get a little bit of. It's in a like emotive topic, so you get a bit of on my social
absolutely.
media channels. I get a bit of hate, but most of the stuff
Even with ours, where we're supporting first home buyers, we get a bit of hate around,
Yeah.
that person bought, but they had help from XYZ or, and it really is just an emotive topic, as you say.
Yeah.
So the commercial real estate side of things, how has that been transitioning into that? And what does the future of that look like?
I've got a couple of little buildings there. So back to my buy dogs, I bought them commercial buildings need to be to an earthquake standard now.
Yeah.
So a lot of the older ones aren't. You need to bring them to 67. They have a thing called an MBS. I think it's National Building Standard. So I bought them and they're pretty low in there, and I've renovated them and earthquake strengthened them at the same time and then leased them out. So that does real well. But again, you got to kind of know what you're doing. But I think I net, even after the renovation, net 7% net on them or something. So cash flow wise, a lot higher than residential stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm doing the dog thing again. I'm taking a lot of risk buying an earthquake, empty, non-tenanted buildings.
Yeah.
But it's always been my
MO.
modus operandi. I just, go where people are scared. That's where money is,
And that's where the opportunity is as well, I guess, if
Yeah.
you're doing something that other people aren't. Because it comes back to if there's less competition, then you can buy it for a cheaper price as well.
Yeah.
So what does the future of that look like? More commercial buildings and less residential, or a mixture of both?
Maybe just a mixture.
Yeah.
Just because I find they're moving forward. Nationals in now, right? They're winding the deductibility. I think it's 50% at the moment. Is that right? It's deductibility 50%.
Yeah, there's a mixture depending on when you purchase the house. So it's a tiered kind of approach.
And then it's tearing back to 100%.
Yeah.
But as they do that, and then they bring the bright line back to 2 years, well, they've said they're going to. But by the time they muck around doing that and start phasing, the interest right back in, it could be a change of government, it's gone again.
Yeah.
Or it becomes a hot topic and there's more homeless or whatever. So I'm finding mixing in, I sort of want to be 50-50 because I'm not at the hands of a fluctuating government or anything or policy. People just leave commercial buildings, in my opinion, I believe they just think no one cares about it. It's just business people and business people stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So I'm
it's
sort of
definitely
doing a
not
mix.
something that's wildly talked about
No.
in New Zealand mainstream media all the time or anything like that.
No, and I kind of prefer it in a way too because I've owned businesses and you're dealing with business people, so it's a lot more of like a business transaction.
Yeah.
It's not held with all these residential tenancy acts, and you can just sit down and make a contract and both agree on something like, hey, does the building get washed once a year? Do we both pay halves in that, or we can just do like a business deal with it?
Yeah.
There's not all these different things and you can get your hand smacked, and it's a real contractual business thing. And if you're used to that kind of procedure, and it's sweet.
It's clean.
It's clean, yeah.
In terms of residential property, have you bought property with other people before, like a partner or?
Yeah, house flips, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so your partner has been involved in some of that as well?
Yeah, I've had a partner. I've had 2 different guys that I've gone on house flips with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been a positive journey. And has that worked out okay when involving other parties? Because I'm just thinking about the business transaction relationship in commercial property and how that might look like if you're buying resi and you're buying it with a partner.
Has that worked out all right? Yep, as long as you're both pretty clear on what you're doing. And it was fast turnaround stuff, so it all worked out. We sold them, made money. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's different than when buying a property and then say you hold that property for 5 years and then break up or something like that.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of relationship property agreements and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about how easy it is to just do a contract, agree on XYZ about commercial property, when you're buying with family or friends or a partner, it can be a bit different. But yeah.
The couple of guys I did it with, very business type.
Orientated.
Yeah, so pretty clean cut what we were doing. But
yeah,
it was good. I guess they wanted to do it with me because it's just like if you haven't got enough capital at the time, and I had more background in the space, so they were coming in, and then sometimes you just got to like. Humans are biased. They'd always see what you do. You think you do more than the other person. It might end up you might do a little bit more work. They might be a little bit, you just swings and roundabouts. You got to be careful. It never ends up purely 50-50 sometimes.
Yeah.
But as long as you're at the end of it, as long as you sort of both got on the path and
it's worked out. Yeah.
It turns around pretty quick too. So yeah, I reckon you're better getting half of something than none of nothing, So.
Yeah, it's a really interesting kind of ethos, hey, because that could be a barrier for some people is going, actually, I just want to buy by myself for the first home.
Yeah.
And actually getting half of something or purchasing with a friend, family member, and then getting in the ladder and moving with that, growing your deposit can enable you to then buy on your own. Because again, half of something can grow into.
Who's really good at that I've noticed is Indians. It's really good at that.
Interesting.
Crazy good at it. So I sold a house as an agent recently to a couple of boys, young lads. They're quite cool lads, and then two of them going in on it. Probably they'd be mid to late 20s, buying a house worth about $850, and then I own a lifestyle block. I've got a granny flat on it, 2-bedroom, and I rent it to an Indian guy. And I've had yarns to him, and I didn't realise he owned his own home. And I'm like, oh, yeah, why aren't you living in your home? He's like, my mate's in it. And I was like, oh, yes, you trust your mate to look after your house? He's like, yeah, because he half owns it.
Yeah.
So I had to talk to him, and he just wants to live. He doesn't want to live where his house is. But he's like, yeah, me and my mate, we could only come up with like 600 grand as max lending between us. So we just went halves. And I was like, are you related to him? He's like, nah, he's just my mate.
Yeah.
I sold my Snap Fitness when I sold it in Tauranga to 3 Indian guys, and with one of them I become pretty good mates with. He still owns a 2 Degrees shop, and they do it all the time. I thought they were related. Not related. 3 guys bought the business, and Kiwis, we don't do that as much.
We're seeing more of it coming through with the younger generations, but it's a change of mindset and
But I find just not being racist around is fine because I got Indian mates, but like Indians are good at it.
Yeah.
They do it. They're quite prolific at doing it. So it gets them. And then
they
just
just know that working together can actually amplify, their investment opportunity.
Yeah, and even getting in the door young rather than waiting. And that's what I was sort of saying earlier with people with a first home. You're better off buying a 600 grand one than waiting to try save up for that $1 million house, because if you wait an extra 3 or 4 years to save for that million, it might have jumped 200.
Yeah.
Depending on.
And you might have saved another.
Yeah, not enough. So you better just get in there
and move with it.
Yeah.
Totally. What other kind of advice would you have for a younger Brent if you could go back in time? I mean, you got into property early. What kind of general advice, though, would you give for your younger self?
And maybe if I want to say the PC things, not drink as much, not do that, but I had a bloody good time doing some of that stuff.
Yeah. No, you can't take that back. You can't take that back.
As I've got older, I read a lot. So, I would have thought that was a real, I don't know, a bit of a pussy thing to do when I was younger. I used to think it's a bit of a hard man on it when I was younger. So just learning, I would have probably, if I knew what I knew now, just been a bit, I don't know.
It's hard to know what you know now.
Hard to know what you know now. Got into reading more, got into...
What kind of books would you recommend then that you have been reading?
I like it. It depends what you want to do, I guess. I like psychology books. My top books are mainly probably based around psych, but it just depends. I've read about 150 books in the last 5 years or something.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
What's your diagnosis of me?
Unread. No.
Aww.
No. Yeah, it's just I guess I would have been I'm prolific with learning, and I would have done that when I'm younger. Another thing, I have a natural kind of propensity towards math. I like it. I've always been able to
manage numbers.
Numbers, and I do a lot of calculations just in my head. I believe everyone, if you want to be a business person, you need to know numbers, you need to know accounting, and you have to have a basic understand, or better than basic understanding. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I forced myself. I didn't love math growing up, but I forced myself to take it all through high school, and I did law and economics, and I had to do calculus papers as part of economics. So I knew that I would always need it, but it wasn't necessarily something that I wanted. And I do tend to agree that if you want to move into business, you need a bit of an understanding in that space.
When people don't know numbers, you just might as well just give up if you haven't got, like, I think with some stuff.
Don't give up. Just learn.
Just learn. But a lot of stuff is just numbers, like flipping a house. If you strip it all back, like...
How much do I spend on said house? How much did I buy it for?
Yeah.
How much do I sell it for?
Yeah.
What's the difference using my numbers?
Yeah. How much holding costs have I got, which is a big thing when you're flipping houses. You want to work out. Worst case scenarios, there always be like 4 months holding costs for interest, and work out what that'll be.
So holding costs being if you've taken on lending to purchase the house and then it takes you 4 months to sell said house, you have to make interest repayments over that period.
Interest rates,
being as they
insurance,
are.
yeah. So all that, you got to, and you go worst case scenario, then I used to always do 10% for like blowouts and different things.
Yeah.
And you might even want that number bigger if you're new.
Yeah.
Because till you get the hang of it. But yeah, a lot of it comes back to numbers. It's like I've run a gym, I've owned a couple of gyms. It's all just numbers, marketing, numbers, money in, cost per click, how much for a conversion, everything's
money in, money out.
Money in, money out. So getting a good understanding, and with accounting, I've done that over the years. I have a real close relationship with my accountant. I just ask lots of questions.
Yeah.
Just ask, why is that like that? Why is that? Look at my zero. Why?
Yeah.
It's a thing I like. Say why 5 times and you get an answer and it works. You know?
It's like just when you're a kid and your parents tell you no and you're like, why? But why?
They actually,
take that ethos through your entire adulthood.
Yeah. Well, they actually do it in Toyota still. It's a thing they do. It's called the 5 whys. Like they'll be like, why? And then why again, and it'll get right down to the fundamental.
Imagining a baby boss like running Toyota. Have you seen that Baby Boss movie?
No.
He's a little midget baby, and now I'm just thinking of him running Toyota and being like, why? But yeah, madness.
I think I've digressed a bit, but I think you just need to understand. You'd know, Amy. You need to. And people say to me sometimes with math or accounting, oh, we don't need to know, Brent, we've got a calculator. And I'm like, but if you don't know what to calculate, what are you going to calculate? You don't know what to calculate because you don't even have you don't know what you calculate. You don't
fundamentally, you don't know what is important to calculate.
Yeah, because to you, that's just the
tools that you're using.
Oh, just,
Xero and Excel. And I guess if you're a first home buyer, though, maybe just, as you say, preparing if you're looking to renovate and maybe eventually flip or make money through improvements and renovations, it's probably just getting clear on the quotes and the costs. If I purchase this property for this and I renovate it, moving through that. I don't think that first home buyers or buyers that are on the earlier stages of their journey maybe need to think as much about holding periods because you're not flipping it. You're not buying, flipping, trying to get more lending, that sort of thing. But I think very much just actually what's it going to cost you to renovate. And I think there's been some really good insights from you today around actually, looking at properties that do need work, but then just I think the cautionary tale would be around getting comfortable with what it's going to cost to renovate or fix those, or whether or not you have the skills, or you're going to have to outsource it if you are buying a property that needs work.
You could start not so crazy too. You don't have to get a meth house or do something crazy like I've done.
No, you do. Get a meth house.
You could get a house, say it was just 80s and you got say it had a building report and it was a pretty solid home, but the kitchen was dated, the whole house was dated. It's a pretty safe play.
Yeah.
Get something like that. And
when the interior is a bit lackluster.
Yeah. Another real good tip I would do if I was a first home buyer is yeah, when you put in an offer, a sucky thing when you're a first home buyer, if anyone comes against you that isn't, you can lose a lot of the time if they have options with contracts. So if you get your finance sorted and you've got an agent, well, you want to nearly portray that confidence onto the agent because they're always going back to the vendor. Yeah. So if they've got a bit of options, or sometimes when people see first home buyers contracts, or they might even be advised from their agent, don't know if we should take this, any little thing will bounce it. The banks could bounce it on a building report if it's not perfect, or their finance won't come through. So if you can really portray, my finance is sorted, I'm super keen on this house, as long as the building report, I don't mind if you don't mind, don't say this if you do mind, but you could really portray, hey, I want a house that's not perfect, I want to do it up, I don't mind if the building report has little bits, I can guarantee you nearly this money will come through. Really portray that to the agent if you're going for a house, especially if you're going against someone who's not a first home buyer, because often otherwise you'll lose.
Yeah, interesting. I guess they just want the sure thing and they feel your uncertainty makes them feel uncertain. It's interesting because that's a sales thing as well. When you're trying to sell, uncertainty is not an emotion you should convey.
Yeah.
So same thing when you're trying to buy or negotiate or win a deal is actually just portraying a degree of certainty 100%. And confidence.
Yeah, so you want to go in there, and that's the reason I've been able to get properties at really good prices too, just because when you make something a cash offer, that's the certainty, and certainty will get you a better price, and certainty will usually get you a better result. Agents a lot of the time will just relay what you've said back to vendors. So if you can come in really strong, even if you're a first home buyer,
whisper sweet nothings into their ear.
Yeah, just come in confident. If you mean it, say it's an 80s house, you put in an offer, it's got a building report, and say you put in an offer and you put in 10 working days, subject to a building report, subject to finance, subject to this, and then someone on the other end of that will be like, oh, it's first home buyers, they'll probably fall over. But if you can portray to that agent, say, hey, I want this house. If that building report only has a few little things here and there, I don't care because I want a house I'm going to do up. This money, I know I've got a finance clause on there. I have to because I'm a first home buyer, but I've already talked to the broker. It's a pretty much shoo-in. Yeah. Really portray that, especially if you have to compete, and otherwise first home buyers' offers will often get kicked.
Yeah.
Or, and you might even get the price cheaper by really pushing that confidence.
So option one is get as close to unconditional as you can, not having those subjects, but if you subject twos, but if you have to have conditions, then at least you're actually having a verbal dialogue or whatever to actually
back your corner,
back yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So they're not, that'll probably fall over, because the antithesis of that, right, is someone, say, going in cash is one perspective, and then the antithesis of that is going in with an offer. Say you go in and you go, oh, here's an offer subject to my house selling. Yeah. So if you're the vendor on that, you're like, yeah, I might accept your crappy offer, but I'm never going to, because it's so uncertain, they might accept it, but they're not going to drop their money much. Yeah. They'll go, we'll accept your weak offer, but you pay more.
Yeah.
You know, if you flip that round and you'd sold that house and you went in at the same house, I guarantee you'll get it way cheaper.
Yeah.
So a first home buyer is not in the strongest position, but you can still bat your corner and present the strongest front you can, and really hammer that to the agent. Even write a bloody letter. Yeah. Write a letter and say, like, this is my first home. I'm real keen to, you know, go, hey, can you
this is the home that I want.
Yeah, hand it to the vendor.
I want it for these reasons.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I've got a baby and my baby lost an arm. Nah.
It's not cut.
No, but just that's an extremity. Hopefully, no one's baby's lost their arm. But yeah, just go in there and really bat your corner and say, you know, be confident. Like have a broker or talk to your bank. Actually, be like in a position and you've been pre-approved to 700, and really be confident and go in there and bat your corner a lot, and you might even get it a bit lower in price. Write a letter. I know people who have wrote letters on their first. I know one of my mates is it? It might have been a plumber. He did a letter and it come down to 2 offers, and he got it like 20 grand cheaper than an investor got it.
Because of the letter?
Because of the letter, yeah. So
that's such a heartwarming story.
Some people hate property people. When I used to buy house flips a lot of the time, I wouldn't put a company name on there. I'd put my name and or nominee.
Yeah.
Because some people just hate the thought of you making money. And if they're older, even me, as I'm getting older, I'm getting a bit more altruistic, you know, a bit softer. So when I'm older, and hopefully I keep on my current trajectory, if I've got a lot of property and a lot of things, and and I was 60 or 70 and someone come in and they were 22 with a baby or some 40-year-old investor come in and it was 20 grand, I might just be like, man, I don't care. Give it to them.
Yeah.
So try bet your corner with a bit of confidence and even write a letter.
What about auctions as well? Because obviously those are painful for buyers. What tips do you have in that space? Because you can't necessarily write a letter.
If you're a first-time buyer?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do them just because I've got a personal friend of mine, this is a while ago now, and he spent about 10 grand he got up to before he got his first house because he kept going to auctions, getting lawyers to do DD and stuff for him, getting a building report, doing bits and pieces and just losing. So I'd probably stick away for
avoid if possible.
If possible, yeah, because you could just end up at that journey of your life. You don't want to be throwing money out the door. It's okay for people like me. I roll around with my tradie mates. I can read all my own limbs, all my own titles. It doesn't cost me any money to go to auction.
Yeah.
I can just walk. But as far as being a first home buyer, you don't want to be spending 2-3 grand missing out, rinse and repeat. That's a rinse and repeat you do not want to do. So, you want to rinse and repeat. When you're making money. So I'd probably stick away from them. But they are, if you know what you're doing and you can control yourself, your emotions and stuff. I've bought properties really well at auction before. Just knowledge is key too, like pushing on agents, finding out why they need to sell, that sort of thing. And then if people need, sometimes there's multiple reasons people sell at auctions. They, I guess, hope people psychologically get out of control and bid high, but it could be they need the money quick.
Yeah.
And if you can work out why that is and you're in a position with capital and you're strong, you can actually do pretty well. But I bought a house, it's a rental I'm selling this year. I went to an auction, I got told from an agent, I knew at the time I wasn't an agent, rang me up and said, Brent, this house is coming out tomorrow, real dog, shitty old dog thing.
Exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, I got this shitty old dog and this person needs to sell it tomorrow. And I'm like, sweet, on my way. And then I bought this house super well, and they needed to move on because they'd started stage building a house.
Yeah.
And they're sort of falling a bit behind in that. So in that, and then I've gotten it's hard to push me around, from agents and different things. So I have my number but for first home buyers, I'd probably steer away from it.
Yeah. So if your current home had a doorbell and that doorbell played a theme song, what would it play?
Who let the dogs out?
That's so relevant. You dog.
I just tied that in. It probably wouldn't
that was perfect. The perfect tie-in. Thanks so much for joining us.
No worries.
Thank you for joining our community. Buying property isn't easy, but listening in will get you one step closer on your journey. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve your experience. Join our Facebook group, A Safe Space to Learn Together, or follow us on Instagram at @SliceToBuy. If you have any questions or topics you would like us to touch on, you can email us at hello@slicetobuy.com. A quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide personalised investment advice. We are not acting as financial advisors or taking into account your circumstances. To get personalised advice, join us at slicetobuy.com and engage with our partners who can act as your financial advisor or lawyer and support you with your specific needs.